On a quiet August night in England, a train driver slowed his engine after seeing a red signal on the tracks. That signal wasn't real. It was a trap. Within minutes, masked men stormed the locomotive, overpowered the crew, and disappeared into the countryside with the modern equivalent of 50 million. No vaults, no lasers, no high-tech alarms, just timing, confidence, and one perfectly placed lie. This is the true story of the Great Train Robbery, the crime that humiliated British law enforcement, fascinated the public, and proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon in a robbery is psychology. Number 1. Britain in the early 1960s, the perfect moment. To understand why this robbery worked, you have to understand Britain in 1963. Post-war England was stable, orderly, and deeply trusting of systems. Trains ran on schedules that rarely changed. Security relied on procedure, not force. Cash was king. Every week, large sums of physical money were transported by train from Scotland to London. Wages, bank transfers, and commercial funds packed into mail cars guarded by routine, not armor. No one imagined a large, organized gang would attack a moving train. That assumption wasn't just naive. It was essential to how the railway system functioned, and that made it vulnerable. Number 2. The target, the Glasgow-London mail train. The robbers didn't choose the train randomly, they studied it for months. This particular mail train carried cash twice a week, late at night, with minimal security and predictable staffing. The crew wasn't armed. The guards weren't trained for violence. The route passed through remote countryside where response times were slow. Most importantly, the train relied on signals, not communication to control movement. If you controlled the signal, you controlled the train. And that realization changed everything. Number 3. The mastermind and the planning phase. The robbery was organized by experienced criminals who understood one thing clearly. This wasn't about speed. It was about certainty. They rehearsed roles repeatedly. Who would handle the driver? Who would secure the guards? Who would move the cash? Who would control the escape vehicles? They even practiced using railway equipment so nothing would look improvised. This wasn't desperation. It was a business operation designed to last less than 30 minutes. Number 4. The fake signal that stopped a nation. On the night of the robbery, the gang executed a plan as bold as it was simple. They replaced a real green railway signal with a battery-powered red one. To a train driver, a red signal is absolute authority. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be questioned. It demands compliance. There's no hesitation, no opportunity to double-check it, commands you to stop. When the train slowed, masked men emerged from the shadows, moving with precision and purpose. They boarded the locomotive, catching the crew completely off guard. The driver was assaulted in the process, a moment that later shocked the public and destroyed any romanticized notions of the crime. This was not harmless cleverness or mere trickery. It was violent, calculated, and controlled intimidation, designed to assert dominance and force compliance. And despite the brutality, it worked flawlessly. The gang seized control of the train, showing just how far planning, audacity, and psychological leverage could take them. Number 5. Inside the train, speed, control, fear. Once inside, the gang moved fast. Guards were restrained. The crew was isolated. The engine was detached and moved forward to a secluded bridge. They didn't panic the victims, but they didn't hesitate either. Time was the real enemy. Within minutes, bags of cash were unloaded into waiting vehicles. Over 2.6 million, the largest robbery in British history at the time. Then, just as quickly as they appeared, they vanished. Number 6. The hideout that became the crime scene. After the robbery, the gang escaped to a remote farmhouse, believing distance and isolation would protect them. It should have been safe. It should have been temporary, but it wasn't. Instead of dispersing immediately as planned, they stayed together, counting money, celebrating their success, and letting their guard down. What was meant to be a brief stop turned into hours, then days. They played games to pass the time. They ate, talked, and relaxed. In doing so, they left fingerprints on glasses, plates, and furniture. Every careless moment added evidence. Every extra hour increased the risk. The farmhouse quietly transformed from a hideout into a crime scene waiting to be discovered. Professional crime rarely fails during the robbery itself. It fails afterward, in moments of comfort and overconfidence, when discipline fades and routine replaces caution. The gang didn't lose because the plan was weak. They lost because success made them careless. Number 7. The manhunt that captivated Britain. When news of the heist became public, Britain was stunned. Newspapers erupted with sensational headlines, capturing the imagination of a nation in disbelief. The audacity of the crime, combined with the mystery of the missing loot, sparked endless debates and speculation. Police launched one of the largest and most intense manhunts in the country's history, coordinating across counties and tirelessly following every lead. The public followed every update with rapt attention, eagerly consuming each detail in newspapers, radio broadcasts, and whispers on the street. Suspense and intrigue gripped the nation. Eventually, the breakthrough came from a seemingly minor clue: fingerprints left at a farmhouse. That small, overlooked evidence allowed authorities to trace the gang with precision. One by one, the members were arrested, their carefully constructed myth collapsing under the weight of forensic reality. What had seemed like an untouchable operation was dismantled, proving that even the most meticulous criminals leave traces that can unravel everything. Number 8. Sentences that shocked the world. When the case finally reached court, the response was ruthless. Judges came down hard, handing out sentences that stunned both the public and legal experts. Some of the robbers received prison terms of 30 years or more, punishments that were virtually unheard of for crimes classified as theft. These weren't just convictions, they were statements. The state wasn't simply punishing those involved in the robbery, it was sending a message. This was about deterrence, about showing what happens when criminals challenge the authority and credibility of national systems. The verdicts were meant to restore confidence, to prove that no matter how clever or daring the crime, the consequences would be overwhelming. The message was unmistakable: challenge the system, and the system will crush you. But even then, justice didn't bring closure. The sentences ended one chapter, not the story itself, because long after the courtroom emptied, unanswered questions, missing money, and lingering legends ensured the story was far from over. Number 9. Escapes, legends, and unrecovered money. Several members of the infamous Heist team managed to escape prison, slipping away from justice with careful planning and luck on their side. Some fled abroad, vanishing into distant countries where authorities struggled to track them. Others were eventually recaptured, sometimes years later, but not before leaving a trail of mystery and speculation behind. And the money, the vast fortune at the heart of the crime. Most of it was never recovered. Investigators believe that large sums had already been laundered, hidden, or spent long before arrests were made, disappearing into private accounts and shadowy networks beyond the reach of law enforcement. The public fascination with the heist never faded. Over time, the robbers evolved into legends, not celebrated as heroes, but as living proof that even the most meticulous systems could be breached. Their story endures as a reminder of cunning, audacity, and the fragility of seemingly invincible institutions. Number 10. Why this robbery changed security forever. After the Great Train Robbery, security practices across the country were permanently altered. Armed guards, once considered excessive, became standard on high-value transport routes. Cash transport methods were redesigned, adding layers of oversight, verification, and physical protection that hadn't existed before. Systems that relied heavily on routine and trust were suddenly viewed as dangerous vulnerabilities rather than strengths. Investigators and security planners reached a harsh conclusion: the robbery hadn't succeeded because of advanced technology or sophisticated tools. It succeeded because the criminals understood human behavior. The system obeyed signals, uniforms, and authority without question, and that obedience was exploited. The lesson was simple, brutal, and impossible to ignore. If a system relies on obedience, someone will eventually take advantage of it. Not by hacking machines or breaking locks, but by projecting confidence, authority, and belonging. The robbery didn't just steal money. It forced the world to rethink how trust itself could be weaponized. The Great Train Robbery wasn't clean like the Antwerp heist. It wasn't quiet, and it certainly wasn't elegant. Chaos, adrenaline, and audacity defined every moment, leaving a trail that was impossible to ignore. Yet, in its own messy way, it proved something just as dangerous as precision planning. You don't always need to break a system to defeat it. Sometimes, all it takes is to make the system believe you belong, to manipulate its trust, and the doors will open for you. For those fascinated by real, deeply researched true crime robberies, this story is just one example of how ingenuity can outsmart even the most sophisticated structures. If you want more gripping, well-documented cases, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with the next case you want us to cover. Because the most powerful crimes aren't about brute force, they're about convincing the system to hand you the keys.